Good morning everyone, it's Carol here at Aakash Journals, and as always a very big warm welcome from me. Thank you so much for joining me, it's lovely to have you with me. So I've got a guest check on my desk and I'm going to be doing guest check number 38 in the 50 stack challenge, and the prompt for this guest check was a form. So I've got this vintage telegram form here, which as you can see it's been written on, and this dates back to 1868. Can you see that? Isn't that amazing? So I was looking at how I could use this on my guest check without destroying it, without ripping it up, keeping it as intact as I possibly could so that I can see and appreciate all the detail. So I was going through some of the letter locking techniques that I know to see whether or not I could get something like this to fit on my guest check. Now, if I flip this over, you can probably tell by the pattern here, or the aging here. This is how this telegram came to me. It was folded up like that, and there's aging all around the edge. But these other folds here and here and here are all ones that I've put in place because I've actually worked out a letter locking technique to keep this intact on my guest check. Now, there were a couple of others. If I bring in this one, this is just a plain piece of copier paper that I folded, and this one wouldn't work as far as I was concerned because it didn't cover the whole of my guest check. I'm just showing it in case you're interested and you like the idea of being able to see your wording for guest check up there. And actually it would have worked for this piece because this is a lovely delicate blue colour. But I didn't want my wording showing, but if I just open it up, you can see really simple folds. So all I did really was measure up my guest check, fold my piece of paper in, and then just use this piece down here, and actually I'm going to use this piece in here, but either would work. Let me show you. If I just open out that fold, that will tuck in there like that, or you can do it the other way round and just put this bottom piece into that fold up there like that, and that will give you a locking letter. Another one I considered was this one. Now this one looks more like origami envelope. It opens like this, and if I just open it up a little bit, you can see as I pull off this end and that end that this flap tucks in there. So again, a really easy idea for a locking letter. But neither of these two fill the whole of my guest check, which is what I wanted. So I came up with this idea. So if I show you, if I just pull this portion here, this bit comes out, and it's the same principle again, that you're using this channel here and this channel here to fold this portion in, and it will work with any rectangular piece of paper. And this is again just plain A4 copier paper. So very quickly I'll show you how to do this in case you're interested. I won't be giving you any specific measurements because, as I've said before, and that's the reason why I've got all the folds on this piece, is because my guest check is not a true rectangle. So let me show you how I've done it. I've got an A4 sheet of paper here, I've got my guest check, and all I did to create my folds was place my guest check in the middle to make sure that I had at least an inch on either side of the height, and you will need that to create your channel, this little bit here and here. So you need at least an inch, and all I did was I took my guest check and I lined up the bottom with one edge of my sheet of paper, and then I took the other edge and I just folded this top edge in to meet my guest check like that and made a fold. And you want to just check that that fold is square, that it's a good straight fold. Then I took my guest check and I just moved it up so the top end of my guest check is against the fold that you've just made like that. So I've lined it up at the top there, And then this bottom portion here, where there's no fold, I just folded it over my guest check again to create the other fold. Okay, I'm just going to take that out and just check on either side, here and here, and this side and this side, that your edges meet up. So that is really all you need to do to create your channel that you're going to do your fold in. Now again, depending on what size your rectangle is, as I've said, this is A4, UK A4 size. What you want to do now is just move your guest check over to one side. You can either do it to the left side or the right side. I'm choosing to do mine to the right hand side. Just put your guest check over the top of these folds and just move it to one side, and then this portion here needs to be about 3/4 of the width of your guest check. So I'm just going to check that mine is, and I'm going to take it up to about there on my guest check, and make sure your guest check is inside and create a fold. Okay, so now I'm just going to check that I folded that squarely. Now this is why, as I said before, I actually folded this before I turned the camera on, for the simple reason that my guest check isn't square, so I had to do some fiddling. So I've just created that fold by putting my guest check in there like that and folded it so that it came roughly 2/3 of the way across my guest check. Now you create a fold down this edge of your guest check. So I've got my second fold in place like that, and now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to flip that round that way. I'm going to fold in this edge to this edge of my guest check, but not absolutely butting up to it. I'm going to leave about a couple of millimeters. So there's my first fold. That's the second fold that we did, and this one I've just folded it in, again making sure that all my edges top and bottom are lined up. And if I hold that up to the camera, you can probably see that there is probably about 1/8 of an inch gap there, and then I'm just going to fold that across like so. Now what you want to make sure, if you've got a larger piece of paper than A4, what you want to make sure is that you do have a bit of a gap here. If I hold that up to the camera, you can see you do have a bit of a gap here, that this top portion here, when it's folded over, falls short of the complete width of your guest check. And the reason for that is when you come to put this edge here into these channels here, which is what I'm going to do now, it won't slip in nicely. So all I'm doing here, as you can see, I've bent this channel out a little bit. I'm putting this corner up into the channel or the fold here, and the same on the other side like that, and just gently it will dome like that, but it should, just with a little bit of gentle encouragement, it will go into that crease. She says, as I've held it up to the camera, there we go, just going to do that, and it will slide into that crease. And the more you do it and the more you burnish your folds, the better it will be. So that's what it looks like, and as you've seen, my guest check is just, I grab hold of it, is just slipped inside like that. Now if you are not bothered about having the whole of your receipt showing, you could just glue your guest check down into that first area and have your guest check on top. But I'm going to lift out these edges here, and I'm going to be gluing this portion here onto my guest check, so that the whole thing will look like that on the front of my guest check, and because you've got that lock, it will be held in place. So that's what I'm going to do with my guest check. I'm going to glue that portion onto my guest check. I ideally would like it this orientation with the heading to my right, but I can't actually do that with this form. I need to have my orientation that way. And the reason for that is, if I flip it over, is because I've got this writing along the bottom here. This will show on the bottom here. And I want that to show because I want that to be the grounding for decoration that I'm going to do on my guest check. So if I just fold up my guest check, just exactly the same as I did with this piece, it is going to look like this. So there's my piece coming in, and this is my flap. And this is just going to slot in there like that. And this piece is going to slot in here like that. And I'm being very, very careful with it because this is quite delicate paper. There we go. That's what it will look like on the front of my guest check. So as I said before, this is the area that I'm going to glue onto my guest check like that. So I'm going to go away now and glue that in place, and I will be back in a moment. So my telegram form is now glued onto the back of my guest check, and if I just pull it gently, I can open it up, as you can see, and there it is inside, and that's the back. And I've lifted out a couple of pieces here. These two are from the Tim Holtz Paper Doll collection, and this little selection here are from the layers Salvaged Elements, but as always I'll put the product code and name, description, etc. in the description box below the video. So as I mentioned before, I wanted to get this line of text at the bottom so that whatever I put on here would be grounded, and I knew that I was going to go in with the paper dolls. What I thought was using this line here as a little ledge for these little characters to sit on. So I'm thinking something like that. Let me get my paper clips out, pop a few there. And I thought I'd have this little girl just sat on that ledge like that. I'm going to use this little guy as well, and he's sitting, as you can see, he's slightly leaning forward, which is perfect because I want to pop him in behind the little girl, and also his feet clear the gap that I've got here. So his toe is lining up with this edge there, which is what I wanted. So they're both sitting on that line. I then thought that it looked a bit bare in here, so I thought that I would tuck in that number 29. Now initially I was going to have it at the bottom there, but I'm actually liking it if I take it a little bit higher and just level it off with his shoes like that. So I'm liking that. It does leave a little bit of a gap here, but I'm not too bothered about that. And then I wasn't liking this line, which is why I like him slightly leaning off to the left, because if you straighten him up, he ends up having that line going through his head. So I'm just going to angle him slightly as if he's looking out from behind her like that. I'm going to pull her down just a fraction, I think, like that. And then I wanted something to cover this up, and I was going to tuck that in there like that, which kind of worked for me, but then I liked the idea of it going down here. Let me just push that in there like that so that it's level with that tuck in there. That's not very straight at the moment, but I will straighten that up when I glue it into place. And I was kind of liking that arrangement, and then it was all looking a little bit bare up there for me. So what I decided was I'm going to glue these two little characters there as if they are a tuck spot, so that I can tuck something like that behind them and have a little pop of red. It also masks that line a little bit up there and makes it a feature rather than anything else. And I thought that I could also put another one of these tickets in behind, which means that actually I could glue this one in along that edge to reinforce it, and then just have that as a little tuck spot. So that's where I think I'm going with this one. So I'm just going to go ahead now and glue it all into place. Here we go, everybody. This is my finished guest check. As you saw, I didn't glue this one in, but I did glue that in. And I like the idea of doing that because it reinforced that delicate edge down there where this flat tucks it in. So I quite like that it's there, and I like that it's giving me a pop of red. So if I open it up, just give it a little gentle pull. There's my document inside, and this side is intact. You have got a little bit of an edge down the side here, and it looks like that if I fold it across. But yeah, I'm quite pleased with how this one came out. Let me fold it up, and I'm just going to tuck that edge in there and tuck that edge in there, and just gently encourage it to go flat. And there it is, like that. And obviously with this little ticket, I can tuck that in there as you saw me do earlier, but I can also put something in here and also something in here if I wanted to. But for the time being, I'm leaving it just as is, with that poking out the top, and I'm loving that it is picking up that little hint of red there. So there we go, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed seeing this one come together, and I hope you'll pop by next week, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye now.